My name is Xavier. I never believed in curses. I never believed in ghosts. I never believed that a place could be hungry. Everything changed in the autumn of 2029. It started with a letter. The envelope was old and yellow. The paper inside looked even older. The handwriting was shaky. It contained only a few words. Xavier, come to Hollow Creek. The harvest has started again. Below the message was a name, Elias Voss. I stared at it for a long time. Elias had disappeared 15 years earlier. He'd been my uncle. The police searched for months. Nothing was ever found. No body, no clues, no explanation. Just silence. I turned the paper over. Nothing else. No address, no phone number, no details. Yet somehow I knew where Hollow Creek was. I had not thought about that town in years. A forgotten place, hidden among endless cornfields in Kansas. A place I visited once when I was 10. A place I promised myself I would never return to, because that was where my uncle vanished. For 3 nights I'd barely slept. The letter sat on my kitchen table. Every morning it seemed older, the edges darker, the paper softer, as if it had been aging while I watched. On the 4th day I packed my truck. I told myself I wanted answers. That was only partly true. The deeper truth was harder to admit. The letter felt like a hook buried inside my mind. Every hour I ignored it, the pull became stronger. By sunset, I was driving west. The road stretched across empty plains. The sky burned orange and red. Wind pushed waves through the tall grass. Everything looked peaceful, too peaceful. Near midnight I reached Hollow Creek. The town appeared suddenly, a cluster of buildings surrounded by fields that seemed endless. Most places looked abandoned. Storefronts were boarded up. Streetlights flickered weakly. Only a few houses showed signs of life. I parked beside the old motel. The signs still stood. Half the letters were missing. The office door creaked open before I reached it. An old woman waited inside. She looked at me as if she had expected me. Xavier. The sound of my name froze me. How do you know who I am? The woman smiled. Everyone knows. You came because of the letter. A chill moved through my chest. Who are you? Martha. Your uncle stayed here the night before he disappeared. I stepped closer. Do you know what happened to him? The smile vanished. Nobody knows. Nobody who is still alive. Her eyes shifted toward the window. The harvest has begun. You should not be here. Then why did someone send the letter? Because something wanted you to come. I waited for her to explain. She never did. Instead, she handed me a rusted key. Room 7. Lock the door before dark. It was already dark. She noticed my expression. Then lock it twice. Room 7 smelled of dust and old wood. The wallpaper peeled from the walls. The mattress sagged in the middle. I barely cared. My mind stayed fixed on the letter and on my uncle. About Hollow Creek. Almost nothing appeared. A few population records, old newspaper clippings, weather reports. Then I found something strange. An article from decades earlier. The headline read, 7 people missing during harvest season. No explanation followed, only names. A year later, another article appeared. 5 more people missing, then 6, then 9, always during harvest season, always in Hollow Creek. The pattern continued for nearly a century. Suddenly a loud knock hit the door. I jumped. The knock came again, 3 slow impacts. I checked the clock. 2 in the morning. Who is it? No answer. Another knock, harder this time. I looked through the peephole. Nobody stood outside. The hallway was empty. Silence returned. I waited several minutes. Nothing happened. Eventually I lay down. Sleep came slowly. Then the dream began. I stood in a cornfield beneath a black sky. The stalks towered over me, far taller than normal. They swayed despite the complete absence of wind. Something moved between them. Hundreds of shapes, human shapes, watching, waiting. Then I noticed their faces. They had none, only smooth, pale skin. No eyes, no mouths, no noses, just blank flesh. One of them stepped forward, its hand stretched toward me. The skin on its fingers rippled, like worms moving beneath the surface. Then a voice echoed across the field. Xavier, we remember you. I woke instantly. Sweat soaked my shirt. The room was freezing. My breath appeared in white clouds. Something stood beside the bed. I saw it only for a second. A tall silhouette. Then it vanished. Morning arrived gray and cold. I convinced myself exhaustion had caused the nightmare. Nothing more. I left the motel and explored town. People watched me wherever I went. Not openly. Just enough to notice. Conversations stopped when I approached. Doors closed. Curtains moved. The entire town felt nervous. Near the center of town stood an old church. Its steeple leaned slightly to one side. I entered. Dust floated through beams of sunlight. An elderly man sat alone near the altar. He looked up. "You are Xavier." I nearly laughed. Apparently everyone knew. "Who are you?" "Pastor Grant." "You should leave, that seems to be popular advice around here." "This is not a joke. The harvest is different this year. Something has awakened." "What does that mean?" The pastor stared at a wooden cross. "For generations people disappeared. The town learned not to ask questions, learned not to wander after sunset, learned not to enter the fields. Yet every few years someone ignores the rules, then they vanish. Like my uncle." His face tightened. "Yes, like Elias." I stepped closer. "Tell me what happened." The pastor hesitated. Finally he spoke. "There is something beneath the fields, older than the town, older than the church, older than memory. Every harvest it takes people. Maybe it feeds, maybe it grows, maybe it is simply evil." Before I could ask another question, the church doors slammed shut. The sound echoed through the building. Pastor Grant turned pale, his eyes fixed on the stained glass window. I followed his gaze. A face stared through the glass. A smooth, blank face. No features, no eyes, no mouth, only pale skin. Then it disappeared. The pastor whispered a prayer. "Leave before sunset. Please." I left the church with more questions than answers. The day passed quickly. Clouds gathered overhead. By evening the sky looked bruised, purple and black. As I returned to the motel, I noticed something in the distance. A scarecrow standing among the corn. At first it seemed normal. Then I realized it was facing me. Even though the road curved, even though I had changed positions several times, the scarecrow always faced me, watching. I stopped walking. The figure stood perfectly still. Then its head tilted. Slowly, impossible slowly. I backed away. The scarecrow remained motionless again. I hurried to the motel. Martha stood outside. Her expression looked frightened. "Did you go near the fields?" "No." "Good. Not tonight. Especially not tonight." "Why?" "Because they are already walking." "Who?" She simply went inside and locked the office door. Darkness fell. Rain began. Heavy, cold rain. I sat beside the window in room 7. Thunder rolled across the plains. For hours, nothing happened. Then I saw lights. Dozens of lights moving through the cornfields. Lanterns. Hundreds of them. A procession. People walked among the stalks, carrying glowing lanterns. Their movements were slow, mechanical, almost lifeless. I grabbed my jacket and rushed outside. The rain soaked me instantly. The lights drifted farther into the fields. I followed. Every instinct warned me to stop. I ignored it. Soon the town vanished behind me. Only corn surrounded me. Tall, endless walls of corn. The lanterns moved ahead, just beyond reach. Always a little farther. The deeper I went, the quieter the world became. Rain disappeared. Wind disappeared. Even my footsteps seemed muted. Then I heard singing, a low humming sound. Hundreds of voices, maybe thousands. The lantern stopped. I crouched between stalks. Ahead lay a clearing. People stood in a circle. At least 50 of them, maybe more. Each held a lantern. Each wore dark clothing. Their heads bowed. In the center stood a wooden platform. Something rested upon it. Something wrapped in cloth. The humming grew louder. The people lifted their heads. My blood turned cold. None of them had faces. Blank skin covered every head. From my dream, I wanted to run. My legs refused. The cloth on the platform shifted. Something underneath moved. Slowly the fabric slid away. A human body lay beneath. An old man, still alive, his eyes wide with terror. The faceless crowd stepped closer. The old man screamed. The sound cut through the night. Then the ground opened. A crack split the clearing. Blackness waited below. Not darkness, something deeper, something alive. Long, pale arms emerged from the opening. Too many arms to count. They wrapped around the screaming man and dragged him down. The crack closed. The scream ended. Silence returned simultaneously. Toward me. Every blank head pointed in my direction. They knew. I ran. Corn stalks whipped against my face. The humming returned behind me. Closer every second. I risked a glance backward. The crowd chased me. Hundreds of faceless figures moving impossibly fast. Their lanterns bounced through the darkness. I ran harder. My lungs burned. My heart hammered. Then I crashed into someone. Strong hands grabbed my shoulders. Xavier, wake up. Wake up now. It was Pastor Grant. He dragged me through the corn. The humming grew louder. The faceless figures approached. Pastor Grant shoved me toward an old truck, hidden among the stalks. Get in. I obeyed. The engine roared to life. We sped away. The lantern lights shrank behind us. Neither of us spoke until we reached town. Finally, I looked at him. What were those things? The pastor gripped the steering wheel. They were people once. What happened to them? His answer came in a whisper. They were harvested. Lightning flashed across the sky. For a brief moment, I saw something standing far beyond the fields. A gigantic shape, rising above the corn. Too tall to be human. Too thin. Too still. And where its face should have been, there was only emptiness. A hollow void darker than the night itself. The thing seemed to watch the town, to watch me. Then the lightning vanished, and so did the creature. Pastor Grant looked at me with fear in his eyes. You have to understand something, Xavier. It knows you are here, and it has been waiting a very long time. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the old man being dragged beneath the earth. I saw those pale arms. I heard the scream. Most of all, I remembered the giant figure beyond the cornfields. The thing with the hollow face. Just before dawn, I gave up trying to sleep. The sky outside was gray. Rain still tapped softly against the window. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my uncle's letter. Something about it bothered me. Something I had missed. I unfolded it again. The words remained the same. Come to Hollow Creek. The harvest has started again. But this time, I noticed something strange. There was faint writing beneath the original message, almost invisible, as if another sentence had been erased. I held the paper near the lamp. Slowly the hidden words appeared. Do not trust the town. Find the well. My heart skipped. Find the well. That was all. Nothing more. A knock sounded at my door. I nearly jumped. 3 slow knocks, exactly like the night before. I grabbed a chair leg I had broken from a nearby chair. Then I approached the door. Who is it? Xavier. Pastor Grant. I opened the door. The pastor looked exhausted. Dark circles hung beneath his eyes. He stepped inside and immediately locked the door. What happened last night? I asked. He glanced toward the window. You saw too much. People who see the harvest usually do not survive long. That is comforting, I replied. He ignored the sarcasm. No. The pastor sighed. Then tell me what you know. For several moments he remained silent. Finally, he sat down. A long time ago, this land belonged to nobody. At least nobody human. The first settlers arrived during the late 1800s. They found rich soil, good farmland, perfect conditions for growing crops. Everything went well for several years. Then people began disappearing. Men, women, children, entire families. No bodies were ever found, only empty clothes. The settlers searched everywhere. The woods, the rivers, the caves, nothing. Eventually they discovered something beneath the fields. What? The pastor swallowed. A tunnel system. Ancient tunnels, far older than any human settlement. The deeper they explored, the stranger things became. Symbols covered the walls. Human faces were carved into stone. Thousands of faces, every one of them blank. No eyes, no mouths, no noses, just smooth skin. The settlers sealed the tunnels, but the disappearances continued. Then one night the harvest began. I remembered the faceless crowd, the lanterns, the screaming man. The pastor continued. The thing beneath the fields made an offer. Give it people and the town would prosper. Refuse and everyone would die. I stared at him. You actually believe that? Pastor Grant met my eyes. The next year, every neighboring town suffered drought. Disease destroyed crops. Families starved. Only Hollow Creek flourished. We're perfect. Every season for more than a century. Cold moved through my chest. Are you saying the town sacrifices people? Not anymore, the pastor said. At least not willingly. Then who gets taken? Nobody knows. Sometimes travelers, sometimes strangers, sometimes residents. The thing chooses, and nobody can stop it. Before I could ask more questions, he noticed the letter on the table. His face changed immediately. Where did you get that? My uncle sent it. Impossible. Why? Because Elias Voss has been dead for 15 years. The room fell silent. The pastor stared at the paper. Then his eyes widened. Find the well, he whispered. How do you know about that? It is written here. I showed him. His face turned pale. The old well. I thought it was destroyed. What is it? The pastor stood abruptly. If the message is real, then your uncle wanted you to find something. Maybe he discovered the truth. Maybe he survived longer than we thought. Where is the well? The pastor hesitated, then he answered. At the edge of the southern fields. Nobody goes there anymore. By noon we were driving south. Dark clouds covered the sky. The endless cornfields stretched across the horizon. The farther we traveled, the more abandoned everything looked. Old barns leaned sideways. Rusted tractors sat half-buried in weeds. Nature seemed to be reclaiming the land. Eventually we reached a broken fence. Pastor Grant stopped the truck. Beyond the fence stood a circle of dead trees. In the center was an old stone well. I immediately noticed something wrong. No plants grew near it. The grass was gray. The trees were dead. Even insects seemed absent. The entire area felt lifeless. We approached carefully. The well was ancient. Its stones were covered in strange symbols. I recognized some of them. The same shapes from the church window. The same patterns carved into the letter. Pastor Grant peered inside. His expression hardened. There is no bottom. I looked down. The darkness seemed endless. A stone dropped from my hand. Several seconds passed. No sound returned. Then something moved below. A pale shape. Far beneath us. Watching. I stepped back immediately. The pastor did the same. Suddenly a voice drifted upward. Faint. Weak. Almost impossible. Xavier. My blood froze. That voice, I knew it. Uncle Elias. Xavier, help me. The voice echoed from the darkness. I rushed toward the well. Pastor Grant grabbed my arm. No. You heard him. That is not your uncle. How do you know? Because Elias has been dead for years. The voice came again. Xavier, please, I am still here. The sound was perfect. Exactly how I remembered him. Every detail, every tone. For a moment I nearly climbed into the well. Then another voice emerged. A child's voice. Help me. Woman's voice. Help me. Then dozens more. Hundreds. Thousands. All crying from below. All begging. All screaming. The noise became unbearable. Pastor Grant pulled me away. Run. We sprinted back toward the truck. The screaming followed us, growing louder, angrier, desperate. The moment we crossed the fence, everything stopped. Complete silence, as if nothing had happened. Neither of us spoke during the drive back. That evening, the town felt different. People hurried indoors. Doors slammed, windows closed, fear hung in the air. Something was coming. Everyone seemed to know it. Everyone except me. I stopped at the local diner hoping for answers. Only 3 customers sat inside. An elderly farmer, a teenage waitress, and a man in a sheriff's uniform. The sheriff looked up as I entered. You are Xavier. Of course, I said. He smiled slightly. Name is Cole, Sheriff Cole. Sit down, we need to talk. I joined him. The sheriff stirred his coffee. You have caused quite a stir. I'm beginning to notice that. He nodded. The town has not seen an outsider stay this long during harvest season. Why? Because they usually disappear. That answer did not help. Sheriff Cole leaned closer. Listen carefully. You are being watched. By who? Everyone. The townspeople. The thing beneath the fields. I frowned. What could be worse? The sheriff glanced toward the window. The Returned. The name meant nothing to me. Who are they? People who escaped. Escaped what? The harvest. A chill moved through me. You mean those faceless things? Not exactly. The sheriff's expression darkened. Those are the harvested. The returned are different. They come back with their faces. They come back looking normal. But something inside them changes. How many are there? Nobody knows. That answer again? Nobody knows. Hollow Creek seemed built entirely on unanswered questions. The sheriff finished his coffee. If you see someone standing outside your window tonight, do not let them inside. Why would I? Because they will look familiar. Then he stood and left. The diner suddenly felt colder. Night arrived quickly. The storm returned. Thunder rolled across the plains. I locked the motel door twice. Then I locked it a third time. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Around midnight, I heard footsteps outside. Slow footsteps. Back and forth, circling the building. I moved toward the window. A figure stood beneath the streetlight. A man. Tall. Thin. Perfectly still. Rain poured over him, yet he never moved. Something about him seemed familiar. Very familiar. Then, realization hit me. My stomach dropped. The man looked exactly like my uncle, Elias Voss. The same clothing from the photograph I kept at home. Impossible. I backed away from the window. The figure smiled. Then he raised one hand, slowly. He beckoned. Come outside. I shook my head. The smile widened. Another knock sounded at the door. 3 slow knocks. My heart nearly stopped. The figure remained outside the window. Yet someone stood at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Xavier, the voice belonged to my uncle. Open the door. I backed farther away. The knocking continued. Open the door, please. I need help. The voice sounded desperate. Human. Real. I almost believed it. Then I remembered the well, the voices, the trap. The knocking suddenly stopped. Silence returned. For several minutes nothing happened. Then a terrible sound came from outside. A scream, a human scream. I rushed to the window. The figure was gone. The streetlight flickered. For one brief second, I saw dozens of silhouettes standing in the darkness, watching the motel, watching me. Then the light died completely. Morning finally arrived. I left the room exhausted. Martha waited outside the office. She looked terrified. Someone disappeared last night. Who? Tommy Reed, the mechanic. Did anyone see what happened? Martha nodded slowly. His wife did. And Martha swallowed. She said Tommy walked into the cornfields willingly, like he was following someone. Following who? She looked directly at me. Your uncle. The rest of the day passed in growing tension. The town felt ready to break. People whispered everywhere. Children were kept indoors. Even the sheriff looked nervous. By sunset, another person vanished. Then another. 3 disappearances in a single day. Something had changed. The harvest was accelerating. That night, Pastor Grant came to my room again. His face was white. What happened? I asked. He shut the door. I found old records beneath the church, records nobody was supposed to see. And the pastor handed me a weathered journal. The cover contained one name, Elias Voss, my uncle. My pulse quickened. Where did you find this? Hidden beneath the altar. I opened it immediately. Most pages were damaged. Many entries were unreadable. But one section remained clear. The handwriting matched the letter. My uncle had written, "The thing beneath Hollow Creek is not feeding on bodies. It is feeding on identities. Every person taken becomes part of it. Faces are memories. Names are power. The harvested lose both. That is why they return faceless. That is why nobody remembers all the missing. The creature consumes them piece by piece." I continued reading. The final entry made my blood run cold. I found the heart beneath the tunnels. I know how to kill it. If anyone reads this, find Xavier. He is the key. The journal ended there. No further entries. No explanation. Nothing. Pastor Grant stared at me. "What does it mean?" I whispered. The pastor looked toward the dark window. "I do not know, but someone else might." "Who?" He answered with visible fear. "The only person who ever entered the tunnels and came back alive, Sheriff Cole." Before I could respond, a deafening scream echoed across town. We rushed outside. People emerged from houses. Doors flew open. Everyone stared toward the northern fields. A massive shape stood among the corn. The giant figure, the one I had seen during the lightning storm. Only now it was closer, much closer, at least 40 feet tall, its body impossibly thin, its arms hanging almost to the ground, and where its face should have been, there was only a hollow black void, a darkness deeper than night. The creature slowly turned, facing the town, facing all of us. Then hundreds of smaller figures emerged from the corn behind it, faceless people carrying lanterns, thousands of lanterns, thousands of harvested souls. The procession had begun, and this time they were coming directly toward Hollow Creek. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The entire town stood frozen beneath the cold night sky. Thousands of lanterns glowed across the fields, an endless sea of orange lights moving slowly through the darkness. The giant figure remained at the front of the procession. Its hollow face seemed deeper than shadow, a black emptiness that hurt to look at. Children cried, dogs barked, people whispered prayers. For several moments, nobody knew what to do. Then Sheriff Cole shouted, "Get inside, now." The spell broke immediately. People ran, doors slammed, lights vanished behind curtains. Within seconds, the streets became empty. Only a handful of us remained outside. Sheriff Cole, Pastor Grant, Martha, and me. The giant creature continued its slow advance. Each step shook the earth. The lantern bearers followed silently behind, their blank faces reflecting the orange glow. Sheriff Cole grabbed my arm. Inside, we hurried into the church. The heavy doors slammed shut behind us. Pastor Grant locked them, then added a wooden beam across the entrance. as if that could stop whatever was approaching. The church was already crowded. Nearly every resident of Hollow Creek had gathered there. Fear filled every face. People clutched children, families huddled together. Nobody spoke above a whisper. Outside, the distant footsteps continued. Boom, boom, boom. Each impact vibrated through the building. Martha crossed herself. It has never come this close before. "What is happening?" I asked. Nobody answered. Sheriff Cole walked toward the altar. His face looked older than ever. There is no point hiding the truth anymore. The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward him. For years we believed the harvest followed rules. We believed the thing beneath the fields only took what it wanted. We were wrong. The sheriff looked directly at me. "It wants Xavier." Murmurs spread through the church. "Why?" I asked. "Because of your bloodline." Pastor Grant stared at him. "You know?" Sheriff Cole nodded slowly. "I should have told everyone years ago, but I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" The sheriff took a deep breath. Then he spoke. "More than 100 years ago, the founders of Hollow Creek discovered something beneath the land. Not a creature, not at first. It was a doorway, a passage leading somewhere impossible. Deep beneath the tunnels, they found a chamber. In that chamber, they found a living darkness, something ancient, something hungry. The settlers tried to destroy it. They failed. Instead, they made a bargain." The sheriff paused. "Every generation, one family would serve the darkness. One bloodline would remain connected to it, guarding the secret, maintaining the harvest. The Voss family." The room became silent. My stomach tightened. "No." The sheriff nodded. "Yes. Your ancestors helped create the bargain. Your family carried the responsibility for generations. My uncle, Elias, discovered the truth. He wanted to destroy the thing. Before he could succeed, he disappeared. Or so we believed." The journal flashed through my mind. "Find Xavier. He is the key." The sheriff continued. "The creature cannot die normally. It exists partly in our world and partly somewhere else. Only someone carrying the original bloodline can reach its heart. That someone is you." Outside, another thunderous footstep shook the church. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lantern lights were getting closer, much closer. Martha looked terrified. "What happens if it reaches town?" Nobody answered immediately. Finally, Pastor Grant spoke. "Then Hollow Creek ends." A loud crash interrupted him. Everyone jumped. The stained glass windows rattled violently. Another crash followed, this one stronger. The giant thing had reached the edge of town. Children began crying again. Panic spread rapidly. People shouted, some prayed, others simply stared in horror. Sheriff Cole raised his voice. "Listen to me. There is still a chance. The tunnels, the heart. If Xavier can reach it before dawn, we may be able to stop this." "May," I repeated. The sheriff met my eyes. "Nothing is guaranteed." The church suddenly became very quiet, because everyone understood what he really meant. I might not survive. For a moment, fear gripped me. Real fear. Not the fear of monsters, not the fear of death, the fear of being forgotten. The journal's words echoed in my mind. Faces are memories, names are power. What if the creature consumed more than lives? What if it erased existence itself? What if every harvested soul became something less than human? The thought terrified me. Another crash echoed outside. Then came screaming. People rushed toward the windows. Lantern bearers had entered town. The faceless crowd moved between buildings. Doors shattered. Windows exploded. Anyone caught outside vanished into the mass of pale figures. The harvest had begun. Sheriff Cole turned toward me. "We have to go now." Pastor Grant nodded. "The tunnel entrance is beneath the church." I stared at him. "There is an entrance here, hidden for decades. The founders built the church above it, to keep watch." A terrible scream echoed outside, closer than before, very close. Time was running out. Pastor Grant moved the altar aside. Beneath it lay an iron hatch. Ancient symbols covered the metal, the same symbols I had seen on the well. the same symbols carved throughout Hollow Creek. Sheriff Cole pulled the hatch open. A foul smell emerged immediately. Rot, damp earth, something older, something wrong. Dark stairs descended into blackness. The sheriff grabbed a lantern, then looked at me. Ready? No, I answered honestly. But that does not matter. For the first time all night he smiled. No, it does not. We descended. Pastor Grant followed behind us. The hatch closed overhead. Darkness swallowed everything. The tunnel stretched endlessly below. Stone walls dripped with moisture. Ancient carvings covered every surface. Thousands of faces, exactly as the pastor described. Human faces, without features. Blank, empty, watching. The deeper we traveled, the stranger the tunnel became. The air felt heavier. Sounds echoed incorrectly. Sometimes, footsteps came from ahead instead of behind. Sometimes, distant voices whispered from the walls. At one point, I heard my mother's voice. At another, I heard my uncle laughing. Neither should have been there. Neither was real. Yet both sounded perfect. Pastor Grant noticed my expression. Do not listen. The tunnels lie. How? The sheriff answered. Because the darkness is aware. Aware of us. Aware of our fears. Aware of our memories. The tunnel widened. Soon we entered a massive chamber. I stopped immediately. The walls were covered with photographs. Thousands of photographs. Every missing person from Hollow Creek. Entire generations. Faces stared back from every direction. Men, women, children. All gone. All harvested. The sight made my chest tighten. Dear God, Pastor Grant whispered. Sheriff Cole approached one wall. His expression darkened. They are changing. What do you mean? He pointed towards several photographs. The faces were fading. Not physically, literally fading. Features disappearing from the images. Eyes gone, mouths gone, noses gone, becoming blank. The process looked impossible, like reality itself was being rewritten. The sheriff turned away. We need to move, fast. The chamber continued deeper underground. Hours seemed to pass, though my watch stopped working long ago. The farther we traveled, the less human the tunnels appeared. Stone gradually transformed into something organic. The walls pulsed slightly, like living flesh. Veins stretched through the ceiling. Dark fluid flowed beneath translucent surfaces. Pastor Grant looked sick. I have never seen this part before. Neither have I, the sheriff admitted. A low vibration suddenly filled the air. At first it sounded distant. Then I realized it was breathing. The tunnels themselves were breathing. The entire underground world seemed alive. Something moved ahead. A silhouette. Then another. Then dozens. Lantern light revealed pale figures emerging from side passages. Faceless people. The harvested. They surrounded us silently, standing motionless, watching, waiting. Sheriff Cole raised his rifle. Do not, Pastor Grant warned. Why? Because they are not attacking. The harvested simply stared, hundreds of blank faces filling the darkness. My pulse stopped. It was my uncle, Elias Voss, not an imitation. It looked exactly like him, the same face, the same eyes, the same expression. Xavier. His voice sounded weak, human, real. I stared in shock. Uncle. The sheriff lowered his weapon. Impossible. Elias looked exhausted, older than his photographs, but alive. How? I whispered. Long story. Pastor Grant looked speechless. We thought you were dead. Most days I wish I was. Elias answered. The tunnel around us trembled. We do not have much time. The darkness knows you are here. I stepped closer. The letter. You sent it. Yes. The journal. Yes. The well. Also yes. Questions exploded through my mind. Where have you been? What is happening? How are you alive? Elias raised one hand. Later, First, we need to reach the heart. The harvested figures silently parted, creating a path. Sheriff Cole remained suspicious. How do we know this is really Elias? My uncle laughed bitterly. You do not. Fair point, the sheriff muttered. We followed him deeper underground. The environment grew increasingly impossible. Gravity felt strange. Distances warped. Sometimes tunnels stretched endlessly, then suddenly shortened. Time itself seemed unstable. At one point, we passed a cavern filled entirely with mirrors. Each reflection showed a different version of ourselves. Older, younger, dead, faceless. I forced myself not to look. Eventually we reached a vast abyss. A bridge crossed the darkness. The structure looked ancient. Bones formed much of its surface. Human bones, animal bones, things I could not identify. The abyss below appeared bottomless. Cold air rose endlessly from beneath. Elias stopped. Across the bridge, the heart is there. What exactly is the heart? I asked. His expression darkened. The first victim. I frowned. What? The darkness needs an anchor. Something connecting both worlds. The first person sacrificed became that anchor. For over a century, it has remained alive. The realization horrified me. You mean someone has been trapped down here all this time? Not someone, Elias whispered. Something. A terrible scream echoed from the abyss. Not human, not animal. The sound seemed to come from everywhere simultaneously. Pastor Grant nearly dropped his lantern. The bridge began shaking. The darkness knows, Elias said. Knows what? That we are close. The far side of the abyss suddenly lit up. Orange lanterns, hundreds, then thousands. The harvested emerged from every tunnel. An endless army of faceless souls, standing between us and the heart. Sheriff Cole cursed. That is a problem. No, Elias answered. The real problem is behind us. Slowly, we turned. My blood froze instantly. The giant figure stood at the opposite end of the bridge. The hollow-faced one, the true master of Hollow Creek. Its enormous body nearly touched the ceiling. Its arms dragged across the stone, and its face, that terrible hollow void, seemed larger than before, deeper than before. Inside the darkness I glimpsed movement. Thousands of faces twisting within the blackness, screaming silently. The creature had entered the tunnels, and now it blocked our escape. The bridge trembled violently. The monster took a step forward. Bones cracked beneath its weight. Another step. Closer, closer, closer. Then the hollow-faced one spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like thousands of stolen voices speaking together. Xavier. The sound shook the abyss. The harvested all dropped to their knees. The creature continued, "You belong to me." Every lantern extinguished simultaneously. Darkness swallowed the bridge. And somewhere inside that impossible blackness, something began climbing out of the abyss below. Darkness swallowed everything. For several seconds, I could not see my own hands. The lanterns were gone. The bridge was gone. Even the abyss seemed to disappear. Only the voice remained. That terrible voice. Thousands of stolen voices speaking as one. Xavier, you belong to me. The words echoed through the void. Then, something cold touched my shoulder. I spun around. My heart nearly stopped. A lantern flickered to life. Elias stood beside me. His face looked grim. "Stay close. Where is everyone?" I asked. "The darkness separated us," he replied, "but they are still here." As if responding to his words, distant lights appeared. Tiny orange glows floating through the blackness. Some belonged to Pastor Grant. Some belonged to Sheriff Cole. Others belonged to something else. Shapes moved between the lights. Tall, pale figures watching from the dark. The harvested, hundreds of them, silent, motionless, waiting. A deep rumble shook the abyss. The bridge trembled beneath our feet. Then came a sound unlike anything I had ever heard. A wet scraping noise, as though something enormous was dragging itself upward. Elias slowly raised his lantern toward the edge of the abyss. The light revealed movement. At first, I could not understand what I was seeing. Then my stomach turned. Hands. Thousands of human hands. They covered the wall of the abyss. Pale fingers clawing across stone, pulling something upward, something massive, something alive. The creature emerged slowly, resembled a human shape, but only from a distance. The closer it came, the worse it looked. Its skin was formed entirely from faces. Thousands upon thousands of human faces fused together. Men, women, children, all trapped within its flesh. Some screamed, some cried, others stared blankly. Their mouths moved constantly, as though begging for help. "Dear God," I whispered. "The first one," Elias replied. "The anchor, the first sacrifice." The thing dragged itself onto the bridge. Its enormous body blocked half the path. Faces shifted continuously across its skin, appearing, disappearing, replacing one another. Then one face stopped moving. My blood froze. The face belonged to Tommy Reed, the mechanic who vanished 2 nights earlier. His eyes locked onto mine. "Help me," he whispered. Then another face emerged, the old man from the harvest clearing. Then another, all of them trapped inside the creature, all of them still conscious, still suffering. The first one suddenly turned toward me. Thousands of eyes opened simultaneously, and every single one focused on me. The bridge shook violently. The hollow-faced one stepped forward. The harvested knelt before it. The abyss screamed beneath us. Everything was happening at once. Elias grabbed my arm. "Move, now." We ran. The first one lunged. A massive arm crashed into the bridge behind us. Bones exploded. Stone shattered. The entire structure rocked dangerously. Ahead, I saw Sheriff Cole. Pastor Grant was beside him. Both looked relieved to see us alive. The relief lasted only seconds. The hollow-faced one advanced again. Every step felt like an earthquake. The creature's hollow face pulsed. The darkness inside it moved, as if countless souls were trapped within. Elias pointed toward a distant opening. "There, the heart chamber." "How far?" "Too far," Sheriff Cole answered. The harvested had begun moving. Thousands of faceless figures flooded onto the bridge. Their lanterns reignited. Orange light filled the abyss. The sight was horrifying, an endless army stretching beyond sight. Pastor Grant whispered a prayer, then stopped. Something had caught his attention. The harvested were not looking at us. They were looking behind us, toward the hollow-faced one. Fear appeared even among them. "What does that mean?" I asked. Elias looked disturbed. "That is impossible." "What is?" The harvested fear something. Before he could explain, a deafening roar echoed across the abyss. The first one had attacked. Its gigantic body slammed into the hollow-faced one. The impact nearly threw us from the bridge. For a moment, both monsters struggled. The first one clawed at the darkness where a face should have been. The hollow-faced one retaliated with impossible strength. The bridge shattered beneath them. Chunks of bone and stone fell endlessly into the abyss. The harvested scattered. Many were dragged into the darkness below. Their silent bodies vanished forever. Elias stared in disbelief. The first one is trying to stop it. Why? Because it hates its master. The answer came from Sheriff Cole. More than a century of suffering tends to create resentment. The battle intensified. Faces ripped free from the first one's body. Thousands of screaming souls filled the air. The noise became unbearable. My head felt ready to explode. Then one voice rose above the others. A female voice. Strong, clear, human. "Xavier." The sound stopped me instantly. I knew that voice. My mother. Impossible. She died when I was 12. Yet I heard her again, exactly as I remembered. Xavier, listen carefully. The voice emerged from the first one, from among the trapped souls. Find the heart. Destroy it. Do not listen to the darkness. Tears filled my eyes. Mom. The face appeared briefly among thousands of others, then vanished again. The moment passed, but the message remained. Find the heart. Destroy it. The chamber entrance lay ahead. We ran. Behind us, the monsters continued their impossible battle. The tunnel beyond the bridge descended sharply. Strange symbols covered every surface. The deeper we traveled, the warmer the air became. Soon heat surrounded us, like standing near a furnace. The walls glowed faintly red. The heartbeat started shortly afterward. Boom, boom, boom. A deep rhythmic pulse echoed through the tunnel. The sound grew louder with every step. Elias slowed. No one spoke. Fear hung over all of us. At last the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. I stopped breathing. The chamber was enormous, larger than any building I had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness. Ancient pillars surrounded the space, and at the center stood the heart. It was not a heart in the normal sense. It looked more like a gigantic cocoon, hundreds of feet tall. Dark veins stretched from its surface into the surrounding stone. The entire cavern seemed connected to it. The thing pulsed slowly, alive, watching, waiting. Every heartbeat shook the ground. Boom, boom, boom. Sheriff Cole stared upward. That thing is the heart. Elias nodded. The source of everything. The harvest, the disappearances, the darkness, all of it. I stepped closer. Immediately something changed. The cocoon reacted. The pulse accelerated. Boom, 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 boom. Veins glowed brighter. The chamber trembled. It recognizes you, Pastor Grant whispered. Why? I asked. Elias answered, because your bloodline created the bargain. Part of you belongs to it. The words hit harder than expected. Part of me belongs to it. For the first time I understood why the creature wanted me. Not simply because I could destroy it, because I was connected to it, bound to it, since birth. A crack suddenly appeared across the cocoon, then another, and another. Something inside was moving. Elias stepped backward. The cracks widened rapidly. Black liquid poured onto the floor. The heartbeat became frantic. The entire cavern shook. Then the cocoon split open. Something emerged. At first it resembled a human. Then I realized how wrong that assumption was. The figure looked exactly like me. My face, my body, my voice, everything identical. The duplicate smiled, and the smile felt wrong, deeply wrong. Hello, Xavier, it said. Sheriff Cole immediately raised his rifle. The duplicate laughed. Bullets will not help. The sheriff fired anyway. The shot passed directly through the figure, as though it were smoke. The duplicate remained smiling. I have waited a long time for this moment. What are you? I asked. The smile widened. I am what your family left behind, the part they could never escape, the darkness given form. Elias cursed under his breath. The vessel. I looked toward him. What is that? The creature cannot fully enter our world, he explained, so it creates vessels, living extensions of itself. The duplicate nodded approvingly. Very good, Elias. You figured it out eventually. Its eyes returned to me. Join me, Xavier. The harvest can end. No more suffering. No more death. All you need to do is accept your place. I felt a strange pressure inside my mind. Memories flashed before my eyes. My childhood, my family, my father, every moment of my life. The vessel stepped closer. You feel it. Do not you. The connection. The truth. Part of me did feel it. Something ancient. Something familiar. Something buried deep inside. The cocoon pulsed again. The pressure intensified. "Kneel," the vessel said softly. "And all of this ends." My legs actually began to move. The force felt overwhelming, like gravity itself was changing. I fought against it, but barely. The vessel smiled. "Yes, that is it. Accept who you are." Then a gunshot echoed through the cavern. The vessel staggered, not wounded, just surprised. Sheriff Cole lowered his rifle. Thought I would try anyway. The distraction broke the pressure. I stumbled backward. Elias grabbed my shoulder. "Listen carefully. The heart is vulnerable now. How do I destroy it?" The answer terrified me. "You merge with it." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Your bloodline created the connection. Only your life can sever it." Pastor Grant looked horrified. "You mean he has to die?" "Maybe," Elias admitted. "Maybe not." "Not exactly encouraging," I replied. The vessel laughed. "Now you understand. There is no victory here. Either I survive, or you sacrifice yourself." The chamber shook violently. A monstrous roar echoed from distant tunnels. The hollow-faced one was coming. The final confrontation had begun. And suddenly, I realized something terrible. Someone was not leaving this place alive. The cavern shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Cracks spread across the ancient pillars. Far away, something enormous roared. The sound rolled through the tunnels like thunder. The hollow-faced one was coming, and it was coming fast. The vessel stood between us and the heart, still wearing my face, still smiling. The expression made my skin crawl. Sheriff Cole aimed his rifle again. The vessel barely glanced at him. "You still think violence matters?" The sheriff answered immediately. "No, but it makes me feel better." He fired. The bullet passed harmlessly through the creature. The vessel sighed. Predictable. Then it raised one hand. An invisible force slammed Sheriff Cole across the cavern. He crashed into a stone pillar. The impact sounded brutal. Cole collapsed to the ground, motionless. Pastor Grant rushed toward him. "Cole," the sheriff groaned. "Alive, but badly hurt." The vessel looked back at me. "Enough delays. Choose, join me, or destroy everything you love." The cocoon behind it pulsed violently. Black veins spread across the cavern floor, like roots searching for prey. Everywhere they touched, stone became corrupted, twisted, alive. The entire chamber seemed to be transforming. The hollow-faced one roared again, much closer this time. Elias stepped beside me. "Listen carefully. You are stronger than it realizes." "How?" "Because it sees your blood, not your choices." I stared at him. "That does not explain anything. Darkness believes destiny controls everything," Elias said. "It believes blood decides who we become. Prove it wrong." The vessel laughed. Touching speech. Shame it changes nothing. A terrible crash echoed from the tunnel entrance. The entire cavern trembled. Then the hollow-faced one arrived. The monster emerged from the darkness like a living nightmare. Its enormous body barely fit through the tunnel. The hollow void where its face should have been twisted and expanded. Thousands of distant screams echoed from within. The creature stopped when it saw the heart. For the first time it seemed uncertain, almost afraid. Then I understood. The heart mattered even to it. Destroy the heart. Destroy the darkness. Destroy the hollow-faced one. The realization struck like lightning. The monster suddenly looked at me. Straight at me. "Xavier." Its stolen voices filled the cavern. "Come home." The words felt wrong. Not threatening, not angry. Almost pleading. The vessel immediately reacted. No. Its perfect smile vanished. For the first time, genuine fear appeared. The hollow-faced one ignored it. "Come home, Xavier," the creature repeated. I finally understood something important. The vessel and the hollow-faced one were not the same. The vessel wanted power, control, survival. But the hollow-faced one, the true darkness, wanted something else, something deeper. It wanted an end, a release. More memories flooded my mind. Not my memories, its memories. The first settlers, the bargain, sacrifices, the endless harvest. More than a century of hunger, more than a century of stolen lives. The darkness had become trapped by its own existence, unable to stop, unable to die, forced to continue feeding, forced to continue harvesting. The thing everyone feared had become a prisoner, just like its victims. The realization horrified me. The vessel screamed, "Do not listen, it lies," but I already knew the truth. The hollow-faced one wanted me because I could finally end everything. The vessel wanted me because I could save it. Two opposite goals, one choice. Elias saw understanding in my eyes. "You know what to do." I nodded slowly. The vessel lunged. "Move," Elias shouted. I dove aside. The creature crashed into the ground where I had been standing. Its human appearance flickered. For a moment, I saw its true form, a mass of darkness, faces, eyes, mouths, thousands of stolen identities fused together. Then the disguise returned. The vessel rose again. Angry now, the chamber shook harder, the heart pulsed faster. The hollow-faced one advanced. The final moments had arrived. The vessel attacked again. This time Sheriff Cole fired directly into its face. The distraction lasted only a second, but a second was enough. I ran, straight toward the heart. The vessel realized my intention immediately. "No," it screamed. The sound echoed across the cavern. The black veins erupted from the floor, trying to grab me, trying to stop me. I dodged one, then another, then another. The heart loomed before me. Its surface towered overhead, dark, living, ancient. I placed my hand against it. Instantly, everything vanished. The cavern disappeared. The monsters disappeared. The world disappeared. Only darkness remained. And within that darkness stood millions of people. Every harvested soul, every victim, every stolen life. An endless crowd stretching beyond sight. They watched silently, waiting. I saw Tommy Reed, the old man from the clearing. Children, parents, travelers, generations of forgotten people. Then I saw my mother. She smiled gently, the way she always had. "You found us," she said. Tears filled my eyes. "Mom," she stepped closer. "You do not have much time. Can I save everyone?" My voice broke. She looked around at the endless crowd, then back at me. "You already did." The souls began glowing, one by one, like stars appearing in the night. The darkness trembled. Far away I heard the vessel screaming, "He is freeing them! Stop him!" The voices around me grew stronger. Not screams anymore, not cries. Relief, hope. The harvested were finally waking up, finally remembering who they were. The darkness cracked. Light appeared. Thin lines at first, then thousands. The prison was breaking. The crowd smiled. Not all at once, but gradually, like dawn spreading across the horizon. "Thank you," someone whispered. Then another voice, and another. Soon, millions of voices echoed together. "Thank you, Xavier." The light exploded. Reality returned. I found myself back inside the cavern. The heart was breaking apart. Massive cracks spread across its surface. Golden light poured from within. The vessel looked terrified. No, no, no. The hollow-faced one stopped moving. The giant creature stared at the heart, at the escaping light. Then something incredible happened. The darkness inside its hollow face began shrinking. The void collapsed inward, slowly, painfully, like a wound finally healing. Faces emerged from the darkness. Real faces, human faces, thousands of them. The trapped souls were escaping. The hollow-faced one staggered, then fell to its knees. The vessel rushed toward me, desperate. "If I die, everything dies. You need me." I shook my head. "No, We never did. The heart shattered completely. A wave of golden light erupted across the cavern. The force knocked everyone backward. The vessel screamed. Its body cracked apart. Pieces of darkness tore away. Faces escaped into the light. Hundreds, thousands, millions. The creature tried to hold itself together. It failed. The vessel exploded into dust. Gone forever. Across the tunnels, across the fields, across Hollow Creek itself, every harvested soul was being released. Every stolen memory returned. Every forgotten name restored. The hollow-faced one looked at me one last time. Its face was no longer empty. An old man's face had appeared there, tired, ancient, peaceful. Perhaps the face of the first victim. Perhaps the face of the darkness itself. I never learned the truth. The old man smiled. Thank you. Then the giant creature dissolved into light and vanished. The cavern began collapsing immediately. Elias grabbed my arm. We need to go, now. That part required no convincing. We ran. Pastor Grant supported Sheriff Cole. Stone crashed behind us. Entire sections of tunnel collapsed. The underground world was dying. For the first time in over a century, the harvest was ending. The escape felt endless, yet somehow we reached the church, bursting through the hatch seconds before the tunnel collapsed completely. The floor shook. Then everything became still. Silence. Real silence. No whispers, no breathing tunnels, no distant screams, only silence. Morning arrived soon afterward, the first sunrise I had seen since arriving in Hollow Creek. Golden light covered the town. People emerged from their homes cautiously, confused, hopeful. Many cried without understanding why. Others suddenly remembered loved ones they had forgotten. Names returned, faces returned, memories returned. The curse was gone. 3 days later, I prepared to leave. The town looked different, alive, for the first time. Children played outside. People smiled. The fear had vanished. Sheriff Cole stood beside my truck, arms still bandaged. You know, nobody will believe this story. I laughed. I barely believe it myself. Pastor Grant joined us. What will you do now? I looked toward the horizon. Keep moving, I guess. Elias approached last. The sight still felt strange. After 15 years, everyone thought he was dead. Now he stood beside me, alive, free. What about you? I asked him. He smiled. I think I need a very long vacation. Fair enough. We shook hands. Then I climbed into my truck. As I drove away, Hollow Creek slowly disappeared behind me. The fields looked normal now. Just corn, nothing more. No lanterns, no faceless figures, no monsters. For the first time, the land felt empty. And that was a good thing, a very good thing. Months later, I received another letter. No return address, no name. Inside was a single photograph. A crowd of people standing beneath bright sunlight. Men, women, children, thousands of them, all smiling, all free. Written on the back were 6 simple words. The harvest is finally over. I framed the photograph and hung it on my wall. Sometimes late at night, I still look at it. Sometimes I think I see my mother smiling from somewhere inside the crowd. Maybe it is imagination. Maybe not. Either way, I smile back. Because some stories end with darkness. This one ended with light.